Let me make sure it's working. Bear with me. Okay, it should be streaming on YouTube now. I'm so sorry. I have to apologize again when all my YouTube people come in. And I was also streaming on an extra YouTube Facebook channel. Just give me 1 second. Make sure that I okay, I think I removed it on the wrong channel. Give me 1 second. Thank you for your patience. Okay, I'm up on YouTube now. Thank you. Thank you. And I am streaming on Facebook. Yes. And on the YouTube and on the Twitch. I apologize for that. My bad. Thank you, Katrina, for the heads up, for looking out. Yeah, sorry about that. If you're popping in on YouTube, I apologize for at least being late on your stream. I accidentally sent it to my other like backup YouTube channel that I made when I was I couldn't post for a while, so I made a backup. So I accidentally hit the backup one instead of my main one. So if you're watching now, I apologize. I hit the wrong button there. So anyway, Chris Murphy and a lot of these Democrats who talk about political violence, it's just very politicized on one side when they have their condemnation. You know, and even like his rhetoric surrounding Luigi killing the CEO, the United Healthcare CEO, it just kind of gives me the vibes of people who are like, oh well, I don't condone what Hamas did on October the 7th, but like here's my list of reasons why I kind of feel like they're legitimate in what they did, you know? So he's a creep. He's on TV all the time. He gets invited on like CNN and MSNBC and stuff all the time. He's a loudmouth. So I like some politicians you don't see much, like that guy who pulled that stunt last week. I guess was it Thursday he did it, and then we talked about it on Friday. Something Padilla, Senator Padilla from California. I don't think he's a guy that a lot of people know. I really didn't know him. Chris Murphy gets around. I think Chris Murphy might have some higher political aspirations, but he is very radical. I don't want Democrats to win and be in charge like ever again, I guess, but I don't that's going to happen. It's inevitable. And I would prefer that whoever takes the helm is someone who's not going to be a radical, someone who's going to be very reasonable. And I don't know. And I would just like our differences to be minimal, you know, not to have such a big schism on, you know, like I'd rather just argue about fine tuning tax policy, not have the other side be totally open borders and not be able to know what the definition of a woman is and all kinds of nonsense. So I hope Chris Murphy doesn't achieve anything higher than being a state senator from Connecticut. Kit Kat, it's not your fault that you're late. I accidentally was streaming on a different YouTube channel, so that's my bad. It's probably my bad. It's probably my bad for sure. Anyway, let me go ahead and show you guys this video I saw from Savannah Craven. And this is another example of not this particular example, but Savannah, she may look familiar to you guys because some time ago she was doing a man on the street video about the subject of abortion. And she was talking to a black woman, she looked like a black woman anyway. And the woman just bop, hit her in the face. And she had a bloody nose. And I know they found out who she was. I don't know what ultimate charges. She was charged. I don't know if she got convicted or what was the maybe it's the case is still ongoing. It wasn't that long ago. But I don't know if she's going to get much justice in New York, but she just punched her in the face, and it wasn't even like it was at that point where she had said something crazy or the rhetoric. The rhetoric just didn't merit getting punched in the nose. And so I've seen some of Savannah's Men on the Street videos from this past weekend pop up on TikTok, and these people will just continuously post pictures of her with a bloody nose or her, head back as like the fist is coming toward her face. They celebrate the political violence that happened to her because they don't like her. To me, that's just bizarre. Like, I can understand punching somebody, if they went too far. They talk about your mama or, really say something to dishonor you or something, or in your family, But just talking about the subject of, abortion, and she was just basically relaying her own logic back to her, and she just decided it was better to fight her and go running. Now I pray the Lord just doesn't put me in those kinds of situations, because I just have to, I think my physical reaction would be to fight back, but you can't just be fighting like it's a schoolyard situation, especially in places where they don't like my kind of folk that much. And by my kind of folk, I mean Republicans. So anyway, she did some Man on the Street videos about the No King's Day stuff. Oh, this is I'm sorry, this isn't the No King's Day. This is another video where this was going viral this weekend about this liberal white woman who said a lot of crazy things about some folks who were just pro Trump, and it was just wild, the sort of things that she was saying.
Protester that we're going to go and try to talk to and see why she's so angry. Let's go.
I don't understand somebody who's had to shove that far up the ass of a
Hi, ma'am. How are you? I'm making videos for my YouTube channel. I'd like to know why you're out here today.
I'm out here because I heard the Red Hats were coming. The Red Hats are coming!
The Red Hats are coming!
The Red Hats are coming! So I came out here to mock MAGA.
Okay, so what's the biggest issue that you're concerned about right now in America?
There are so many. My country's being destroyed. I spend a lot of time crying. They are destroying my country.
Who's they? Like, who specifically?
MAGA.
All these people?
MAGA.
Do you think it's weird that there's a lot of women and like minorities out here?
Not really. I mean, because I believe that Americans are all equally vulnerable to brainwashing and equally vulnerable to the lies of a felon and a con man. I'm just really sad that there are this many Americans that there are this weak.
Yeah. Well, you believe Trump's racist, right?
Oh yeah.
So why would all these brown and black people be out here supporting Trump, do you think?
That's something you'd have to ask them. I don't know. I mean, it's easy for me to stand over here as a white person and say, I don't get it.
Yeah.
I mean, he's using them. He hates them. I see it as being pretty embarrassing and sad, but they don't obviously see it that way. So
yeah. What's one thing that he did to black people that like shows that he's racist?
Lots of things. I mean, he's bringing back stop and frisk. He's oh God. I mean, his commentary, his words.
What did he say?
What he said when he was at that black journalist dinner. Oh my God, that was the most racist thing I've ever seen in my entire life. I can't.
What did he say?
He was asking the woman to like you're not being nice enough to me. I mean, it's just the way he talks down to people, and especially black women.
That's racist. Just saying,
He
like,
talks down to black women. Oh my gosh, it's like he was treating her like his slave. It was really awful. I thought.
You think he was treating her like his slave?
That's how it felt to me. But again.
Okay. Lots going on there. If you recall when she's talking, she mentioned when he was talking to the black journalists, it was the National Black Journalists Association. I don't remember all the journalists that were there, but Harris Faulkner, who's on Fox, she was one of the people there. Lots of interesting things behind the scenes that happened that day. But Trump came out. If you watch the interview, he was already seemed like annoyed, and they were like late and other stuff. So there was other issues that I guess heightened his irritation. And he was there and Kamala wasn't there. This was in the era of Kamala still, I believe, not doing any interviews or whatever for her presidential run. And he was very, I don't know, he was very just Trumpish when he did his interviews. And I remember somebody was like panicking as was happening, and I heard people talking about it, and then I actually watched it myself. I'm like, this isn't bad. This isn't a bad interview. But people took him talking about black jobs, and I think maybe they asked him about it, and they're like, oh, he's racist because he said black jobs. I mean, I'm like, you guys are so ignorant. Like, how are you going to be mad at him for mentioning black jobs? Which, when he was at a debate, I think it was with Biden, I think Biden brought up black jobs, like the term. And then Trump had like said, like, kind of talked and built off of that. And they're like, oh my gosh, Trump, what's a black job? As if that was so offensive. And it's like, it's a job that belongs to a black person. It's not something that's derogative. But the ignorance of bringing that up at the National Black Journalist Association. What's a black journalist? What's the job of a black journalist? It's a journalist who is black. Right? So she keeps saying that, oh, he did all these racist things. He did all these racist things. Oh, how he talked to them. He talked to that woman like she was a slave. I don't know what goes in the minds of liberal white women about history and slavery and Civil War and pre-Civil War and all that stuff. But Donald Trump did not talk to them as if they were his slaves. He just didn't. Like, I don't know, maybe she's privy to how her ancestors talked to slaves or whatever, but that's just not the feel that I got at all. And how he conducted himself in that interview is nowhere near like how she conducted herself in this interview. Because if you recall, when this video started, in this interview with Savannah with her, she's like, oh, they're susceptible to brainwash or and talking about all these minorities and women who are out supporting Trump, but something must be wrong with them. And because they're there. Like, why can't you just talk to them and just understand that maybe they see things from a different perspective than you? Like, she can't see how racist she is. And because they hate Trump so much, when he does something and talks back to a black woman, it's because he's treating them like slaves. But you are there to help them, right? You're there to liberate them into the liberal left-wing mindset, right? Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think so. So anyway, these videos are going viral. We're making the rounds on TikTok. And again, every time I see Savannah pop up in my feed, because I've seen a couple of her videos pop up and different people like chopping them up, I see images of people posting her getting punched in the face and people laughing about it. And like, oh, I'm so glad we're never going to let that live her down. She didn't do anything to warrant her getting punched in the face. And, when Steven Crowder back in the day, he got punched in the face in Michigan. It was at a right to work rally down in, up in Lansing. It's up and over for me. And there was some Teamsters or union folks that came out, and there was a tent that was destroyed. I have a friend named Clint. He was, I think he was still a Democrat at the time. He had a hot dog cart that got, messed up and people raised money for his hot dog cart to get fixed or whatever. And I guess the cart getting messed up and Steven Crowder getting punched in the face, did really help with the cause of getting right to work overturned, or right to work passed or whatever. But for a long time when I saw leftists on on the internet coming after Steven Crowder, they would post that image of him getting punched in the face. So I don't condone political violence, but the left, they really want to pick and choose when they celebrate it or not. So with this shooter, this assassin in Minnesota, I don't know for sure what his political views are. I don't. But I do know that I can consistently say that I don't condone political violence. I don't. Whether it's from the right or whether it's from the left. So even if he's a crazy MAGA person, I would say, man, well, first of all, people need to get out and touch some grass, and politics should not be like in people's worlds so much that it drives them nuts. And unfortunately, there's too many people who are just like chronically online, chronically watching Fox or MSNBC or whatever, and they just make it their personality, they make it their world, and there's just so much more going on. My sisters took a trip to Colorado, and my younger sister Tina was like, oh, going outside in nature, when people say touch grass, it is really good for your mental health. Actually go up there and just see the world and how beautiful it is. Just detach yourself from all this stuff. And so many things are localized. Like you need to pay attention to what you can impact for your sheriff race, for the county commissioners, your state rep, your mayor. So many people focus so much on things on a national level. Like, what can you do? What can you actually put your hands on yourself to fix your community? And what can you do to actually fix what's going on in your life? Because if you have gotten to the point where you are crazy enough to go harm other people for politics, I bet your life is there's some things that are screwy with you in your life that you need to fix, that you could fix maybe yourself, or maybe you're just unwell and need some help professionally. But if you get to that point where you're just willing to harm people, you definitely need some help. You definitely need to make some change. Maybe you need to, I don't know, maybe you need to be locked up. I don't know. But if this person is a MAGA person for real, I don't approve. And it's very easy to condemn. And I don't need to say, but no. It's very easy to say it's wrong. Chris Murphy was like, well, we need to have a conversation about how people are really angry about the healthcare after someone got murdered, a CEO, father in cold blood, middle of the day. So I just don't want to be lectured by these people. I don't. And I still think that he's probably not a Republican. But I'm going to do some more digging and probably talk more about that tomorrow. This weekend, there was a No Kings protest. And I've seen some images. A lot of folks seem to be a lot of older liberal white women, but not exclusively, not only. But I am annoyed by it for sure. What annoys me about it, and I did a TikTok video that started doing pretty well, though I know TikTok is still suppressing me. I brought up the fact that in 2020, we were told that you couldn't travel between your houses, right? I brought up the fact that was in Michigan. It's by some of the things I said, it's funny people could guess I was from Michigan. You couldn't go out in the water if your boat had a motor, like maybe you could do a canoe. I don't think you could always do that. People brought up the fact that there were people surfing in California alone in the ocean and they were arrested. There were skate parks that they filled in with sand so people wouldn't go out there and skate. They closed off parks, they locked them down, chained them up, basketball courts, wouldn't let people go to the gym. They closed down people's businesses. People got arrested for giving haircuts, but then you had, some people who snuck to get haircuts, like the former mayor in Chicago, Lori Lightfoot. And she's like, well, I'm a public official and, I'm in the media all the time. I need to get my hair cut. I'm like, first of all, it's not like you come out looking stunning. So you're not so important, more important than your constituents. You tell them that they can't go out and get a haircut, and then you have the hypocrisy to go out and do it yourself. But it's not like you look so well put together, I guess. You have Gavin Newsom shutting down restaurants, and of course he went to the French Laundry and got caught for that. You have Nancy Pelosi who snuck and got herself, her hair done. That was a big thing. Governor Gretchen Whitmer, when she said that people could, go out on the water, her husband tried to get his boat out first. They also went down to Florida. That was a big thing. Unfortunately, she got reelected by double digits. And I just, did this TikTok video and I was listing all these things that happened during COVID. And I'm like, these people are the ones who are saying that Trump is a king because his birthday was the same day as they're saying the parade was for him. They were saying the parade was for him, but his birthday is legitimately Flag Day, and it's legitimately on the anniversary of the Army. He can't help that he was born on that day. It hasn't changed. It hasn't changed all that time. I don't think I showed you guys the clip when he was asked about it, and he said he doesn't feel like a king because he gets stopped all the time. He does get stopped all the time. So how is he a king? And where was your energy during all that time? I can't get it out of my head, Biden's press conference when he said this isn't about your freedom or your personal choice. What kind of president says this isn't about your freedom or your personal choice? Who does that? Talking about the shot. Because some people point out a lot of this stuff happened under Trump. Trump, they gave recommendations for stuff, but the states followed through about what they wanted to impose upon their people. And when Trump tried to lack stuff up, the media and politicians will come after him. They ran ads about him wanting to reopen schools, negative attack ads against him. And now the teachers unions and all those folks pretend like they wanted schools open, and that it's just not true. It's just not true. Now, were there moments when Trump was, trying to slow down Georgia and Florida from reopening and stuff? Yeah, that was annoying. This man was not perfect during the pandemic. I was annoyed with him, and I made myself vocal during the primary. I'm like, but I always kind of knew. I'm like, it sounds like if it's a rematch between Biden and Trump, there's just not going to be any sort of reckoning for what was done during that time, because they're both responsible for it. But Joe Biden came in and started doing the mandates. At least Trump could say, well, I didn't do the mandates. That was terrible. And that's correct. Correct. And so much time had already passed. So much had already happened. We learned so much about the virus. By the time Biden took office, plus there was a vaccine, that they didn't have to continue going as hard as they did with their mandates. But Biden doubled down and said, hey, if you are involved with government contract work, you're going to have to get it. Any sort of hospital, like care worker or whatever, you're going to have to get that. And it was challenged in the courts, and they upheld Biden, what he wanted to do, because they get that federal money for the hospitals and all kinds of stuff. So everybody who wants healthcare to be free, just know, like, it's not free money. Somebody does pay for it. The taxpayer does pay for it. So it comes out of somebody's pocket, even if it's not quite your own. But the more you are attached and dependent on the government, the more they can control you. That's why a lot of like nurses and so on had to go ahead and get it, or they had to lose their job. And a lot of people left comments about the stuff they went through, how they lost their jobs because they wouldn't comply. Of course, there was a military, mandate. So there are people who left the military because they wouldn't get the job. And then he turned business employers against the employees, saying that the employers, if you had over 100 employees, you had to make your employees get the vaccine, or they would be fined. The businesses would be fined. So you could either make them get it, or you could have them continuously test, and the companies wouldn't have to pay for the testing, so they can impose that on their employees. And so they'd have to continuously keep doing it and pay out of pocket for it. And the tests weren't always readily available, and they looked very painful, or at least very weird. I actually never had a COVID test before, nor did I ever get the shot. But I did see my sister Sabrina get one, because she was had to take her to the hospital for something during that time, and so they just needed to check her when they admitted her into the hospital. And I just watched them, go up her nose and hit that brain stem and or whatever they do. And it feels weird. So it didn't make sense, because you could still catch the virus even if you had the vaccine, and you could still spread it. So if you can still catch and still spread it, why wouldn't everyone still continuously get tested? Why do you only want the people who didn't get it to get tested? And the answer is that you wanted to make people comply. And I wonder why all the reasons for that is. I mean, they did pay all this money for them. Maybe they didn't want there to be like a A/B kind of sort of test, like these people have it, these people don't. I don't think it was all good intentions. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. The science just wasn't followed. The science just wasn't followed. They didn't do things that made sense. A lot of these people, and not even in hindsight, me talking about this stuff, like, it didn't make sense. It didn't make sense then. It didn't make sense then. You had to arrest someone in the ocean. You don't want people to be like distanced, like in a park or on the beach, or people go to restaurants and they just have to wear their mask so they sit down. Things didn't make sense at all. People could go to the grocery stores, but they couldn't go into the aisle to get seeds or whatever. And when Whitmer was asked about it, she was like, well, it's cold, so people aren't growing things right now. So why are they even complaining? It was something along those lines. And folks were like, what are you talking about? You can still grow things. There might still be reasons to buy seeds. And what about like paint thinner and things like that? My sister's an artist. That stuff is always essential for her. So anyway, where's people's energy during this time? If you want to complain about kings, where was your energy then? Where was your energy then? And you could say, well, no, it was to save people's lives. All that logic goes out the window, because people were protesting and marching and rioting during the BLM stuff. And there was a bunch of doctors. I've heard so many people say this is their red pill moment or black pill moment when all these doctors got together to sign a letter saying, if you want to go protest for BLM, it's too important, so go ahead and do it. Oh, so it wasn't important enough to see your wife have a baby. It wasn't important enough to be with your elderly parents in the nursing home, and they could just, so instead they just were left alone until they started developing dementia, and now they'll never get that time back with them at all. It wasn't worth people holding the hand of their husbands before they passed away. People just started flooding my comments with so many horror stories during COVID. And it was hard for me. And it was because you guys know my dad was in the hospital during that time, and we couldn't see him. And he started like losing his mind like during that time. Like he started losing his memory. And like he knew he was married and he could kind of remember my oldest sister, but he didn't know where he was at times. He'd wake up and there's like needles and different things in him. He'd want to pull them out. Like we didn't know what was going on. And then when he, was well enough to go home, they didn't want him to go home. They wanted him to go to a nursing home. And we had heard horror stories because I had an aunt went to a nursing home, and they, I respect. There's plenty of healthcare workers who were overwhelmed, who really did try, who were traumatized by how many people that they lost during that time. But I heard horror stories about people in nursing homes. And my aunt, she was in one, and they weren't taking care of her. She like had to call the hospital herself for them to take her back to the hospital because she had a pneumonia or whatever. So we were like, no, you can't take our dad to a nursing home. Like, why, if he needs rehab, why can't he be at the hospital? And they're like, well, he's too weak to be at our rehab. Like he needs other kind of care because it's like too severe. And we're like, well, just send him home. We'll take care of him. We'll take care of our dad. And they're like, you don't understand how much, care that will be. And we're like, we want our dad. Give us our dad back. And they were like, well, if you don't like comply to our like medical advice and treatment and stuff, it could look like you're refusing care and we could like pull insurance. We're like, dang, we just want our dad back. Like, what the heck? So they didn't end up doing that, but they sent him, they did end up sending him home, and they did like send therapists to the house and stuff, but he was not a good patient. He was a difficult man during that time for sure, but he was in the hospital for a while. Like his arms and his legs he had lost so much weight, and he could barely like lift himself at all. He just had like no muscles in his arms, legs, and he had to like learn to like lift himself up and then to get out the bed and eventually walk back up the stairs. But like it was a whole ordeal to just to take care of him. But it was worth doing, but it was rough. But even as rough as it was for me, I know people had a more rough time. And people like left comments about how they couldn't go to their loved ones' funerals, or there was only like 10 people allowed at their funeral. I did go to a funeral during COVID. It was more than 10 people. And it wasn't like when it first dropped, I saw some images of like very few people like sobbing, social distance. So you couldn't even like hug people and comfort them. But mind you, George Floyd got his grand funeral with all these officials and so on. Just infuriating. But it was a limited funeral that a lot of the family members couldn't go. It wasn't my family member, but they were a longtime church member who had passed. And I was one of the few church members who got to go because they needed someone to sing. Her brother's on the praise team, but he couldn't sing. At a sister's funeral, they wanted me to sing some certain songs. They're like, well, you're just gonna have to be the one who goes, and the rest of us aren't gonna be able to. And it was just such a terrible time. And then she had young daughters. I can't talk about this time or think about this time without like getting emotional about it. She had young daughters that she left behind, and they were doing okay. Kids just process this stuff differently when they're really young. And they kept their mom's phone, so they would call me on it from time to time. And I remember having a conversation after the funeral, and they were just talking about how they miss going to school and they miss seeing their friends. And it just upset me so much because I'm like, after everything they've been through, they can at least be with their friends, but they can't be with their friends because of these stupid rules. And we knew a lot about the virus by that time, that we knew that kids weren't really a danger from it. So we did so many stupid things during that time that didn't follow the science, and enough people in charge and high positions of authority knew that we weren't following the science. And it was so much about accumulating power, political power. So for these people now to be like, Trump is a king. Oh my gosh, a military parade. Where were you? Where were you? Where were you? When it was your side doing it, you loved it. You were part of the shame campaign. You were part of the snitch watch. Tim Walty, the snitch line. Your elected officials told you to confront people. My governor said confront people. I'm like, you better not tell people to confront people. You better not. Like, you crazy. People are already high strung enough, and you're telling these crazy folks to go confront these indignant folks who don't want to wear the mask or whatever. You're asking for trouble. And I don't know, it was some kind of massive psychological warfare tactics and stuff during that time. They didn't mind the Kings back then. They didn't mind the Kings back then. So give me a break with this Trump stuff. Give me a break with this Trump stuff. He is not a king. I don't know if I again, I don't know if I showed you guys this video when he was asked about it, but I'll go ahead and play it again if I did.
There are several No Kings protests planned across the country on Saturday as well. What are your thoughts on those?
What are they? What, no king?
No Kings.
I don't feel like a king. I have to go through hell to get stuff approved. A king would say, I'm not going to get this. A king would have never had the California mandate to even be talking to him. He wouldn't have to call up Mike Johnson and Thune and say, fellas, you got to pull this off. And after years, we get it done. No, we're not a king. We're not a king at all. Thank you very much.
There are several No Kings.
Yeah, so he's right. There's so much that he has to do. There's so much that he has to go through. How many hoops he has to jump through. There's so many checks and balances with Trump that think about the media, for example. Think about the media covered for Biden, and then they're like, and they just pretended until like after he was out of office and Kamala had lost. They're like, oh my gosh, he was demented the whole. I mean, had dementia. Well, I don't know what dementia, but he had a decline the whole time. And it's funny. I don't know if you guys saw that clip of Joe Biden when they asked him about Jake Tapper and his book. And let me see if I can find it. I know I liked it, but I'm pretty positive I haven't shown you guys that video. But he threatened to like fight them, like he wanted to fight them. And then they also asked him, well, what do you think about people blaming you for the loss, and should you have gotten out of the race sooner? And Biden said, well, if they felt that way, then they should have challenged me. They should have beat me in the primary. And I just thought that was so rich, because I'm like, bro, they wouldn't let a primary happen. They wouldn't let a primary happen. So he's part of this, system that has created no opportunity for him to be challenged. And then after the fact, he's just like, nah, boo boo. Like, what you gonna do about it? Just teasing them about it. Let me see if I can find it. But the DNC, they said from jump that they weren't going to allow any sort of primary challenge, and they didn't. Like, I remember Samoa Sanders being like, we're not letting our presidential nominee be challenged, even though he said that he was going to be a transitionary figure. But Kennedy tried it, and then they undermined him at every single turn. So he went, even when he went independent, they were trying to get him kicked off of the ballots. They were trying to get Trump kicked off of the ballots. They didn't want a choice to happen. They didn't want a choice to happen. So yeah, I'm not finding it just from a quick search. I'll have to show you guys some other time, but it was wild. It was wild. Anyway, I hope you guys did have a good Father's Day. And man, the New York Times put out an article that was like an opinion piece that was basically a hit piece on somebody's dad. And it was so bizarre. I'm like, why can't y'all just and then I saw another article. It was like, on Father's Day, we must remember the mothers. I'm like, why can't we just give dads their day? Dads their kudos. Like, mothers get one, dads get one, you know. Fathers are very important, you know, in people in the lives of their children. And even their absence is very strongly felt. They play a role one way or another. I've told this story before, but when I was a kid, I always did very well in school, and we had parent teacher conferences, and my dad, I think this was maybe the fourth grade, maybe it could have been third grade, but I think it was either third or fourth grade. My dad came to the parent teacher conferences, and my teacher just bragged on me a lot. And my dad, his like eyes, he's a crier. His eyes were like welling up with tears, and his chest was like puffing out with pride. And I didn't have a conversation with him about this, but I just, within myself, I'm like, I want to continue making him feel that feeling, you know? So within myself, I'm like, I'm going to keep doing well. I'm going to keep, you know, striving. And I ended up graduating number 9 in my graduating class, but just like that little moment, and he didn't say anything particular, but him just having pride and affection in his daughter really made a profound impact on my life. So sometimes it's just being there and caring, you know, is really enough. I mean, that's not the only thing he ever did, obviously, but you don't know how some moments are going to shape the lives of your children, or sometimes when you're absent, it's going to end up shaping the lives of your children. And then sometimes though, as a warning, there are things that you think might be important that your kids, I don't know, won't even remember. There was my youngest sister, Tina, she was in elementary school. They did this play, and they made everybody go. You know, that just wasn't our way. Like, if you had like a school performance or whatever, it's like, oh, you sing all the time in church. It's not a big deal. Oh, band performance, we don't need to see that. Like, play, don't really need, like, you know, there might be like a few, but the whole family going, it just wasn't our way. But everybody went to Tina's play. And because my dad was so proud that she was the professor. He was so proud that she was the professor. And he was bragging like, my daughter's a professor. My daughter's a professor. And we mentioned that to my sister a couple of years ago. She didn't even remember that. And we're like, what? I think she remembered that we all had to go to her play. But him just being like, my daughter's a professor. So, you know, you just got to kind of spend as much time with them as you can, build as many memories as you can, be attentive as you can, you know, give love where you can. But as I said, dads can really impact and shape a child's life, and it's very shaped, especially when they're not around, and unfortunately, they can have a very negative impact. But you can hopefully, if there's not a father figure in their life, you can find someone to kind of step into that role and still be someone that they can look up to. Like there's people in my church who they didn't have a father figure, but they still look to my dad for certain aspects of that role. So if you have a father in your life, or have at least someone who can fit into that role, you should be grateful. Talking about, I mentioned a church yesterday when I had the mic. Yes, we do let women touch the mic in my church. It was like between like praise and worship and offering and stuff. I was just talking about Father's Day a little bit and what had been going on social media and some of the things that we were reliving during COVID. And as I mentioned, my dad had a really rough time, and he could have died during that time, and some people didn't make it. So love people while you can. Love people while you can. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me today. I'm so sorry about the confusion about streaming late on YouTube, but thank you to those of you who jumped on. You guys can go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, articles, videos, etc. for like what I do here. Please consider leaving a donation on the site, because it does cost to stream and all that good stuff. You guys can go to my sister's website, Tina's Text Portraits. If you're interested in any of her portraits, her text portraits specifically, she has a coupon for 30% off. It's like birthday 30 at checkout, and she's got a lot of cool stuff. She also does commissions as well. I had a friend, their dog passed away, and so she did a portrait of the dog. There was a bishop, he had like an anniversary or something, so the church had an image of him out of a prayer. So she does a lot of really cool stuff. So just want to let you guys know about that opportunity for you all. And yeah, you are that sister. That's Tina. I don't know if she jumped in the story when I was talking about the professor, or but that is her website, tinastextportraits.com. So go check out that stuff. Anyway, God bless you guys, and I will